All right, let's talk about that moment. You know the one. You've got a fantastic idea, you've done the work, you open up a new document, and there it is. That blinking cursor. Just staring back at you, almost mocking you. Well, today we're going to dismantle that fear. We're going to turn that blank page into your personal playground. Let's dive into a guide for completely fearless drafting. So does it? Does that cursor fill you with dread? If your answer is a big yes, then hey, you are not alone. Seriously. Even the pros, the people who write for a living, admit that an empty page can be totally intimidating. There's just this immense pressure to be brilliant right from the first word. But what if I told you that you've already won half the battle, and that all that pressure you're feeling, it's really just based on a misunderstanding of what a draft is supposed to be? Look at that definition. The keywords here are first version. That's it. A draft isn't the final, polished masterpiece, not even close. It's the raw clay, not the finished sculpture. Its only goal isn't to be perfect. It's just to get a complete version of your ideas down on the page. That's the whole job. So let's just lower the stakes a bit, shall we? So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll tackle that fear of the blank page head on. Then we'll find our guiding principles, our compass, if you will. After that, we're getting into a super practical toolkit and the real nuts and bolts of putting a draft together. And finally, we'll talk about that amazing moment when the first version is actually done. Okay, first things first. If you've done any kind of pre-writing, brainstorming, or outlining at all, then that page isn't really blank, is it? You already have a map. You know what's supposed to go where. You're not inventing things out of thin air. You're just giving shape and words to ideas you've already captured. The hard part is already done. So how do we actually navigate this whole drafting process? Well, you don't need some complex, high-tech GPS. All you really need is a simple compass. And this compass only has two directions, but they're going to guide every single decision you make from here on out. These two things, purpose and audience, they work together. Think of your purpose as the engine. It's what drives your sentences forward. Are you trying to build an argument or just present the facts? That purpose is what shapes your logic. And your audience? Well, that's your style guide. It tells you what words to choose, what tone to take, and how much background info you actually need to give. So, if you ever feel lost in the middle of writing, and trust me, it happens to everyone, just pause, take a breath, and ask yourself two super simple questions. What am I trying to do here, and who am I talking to? Answering those two questions will get you back on track every single time. It is probably the most important key to success. And that's a fair question, right? You might be thinking, look, I'll just write it my way and people will figure it out. But the impact of tuning your writing for a specific audience, it's absolutely massive. Let me show you with a really clear example. Let's make this real. Imagine you're selling clothes. For the skateboarders on the left, you're going to use words like durable, you'll talk about performance, and you'll use slang and really energetic language. But for the more mature adults on the right, you're going to focus on comfort, fit, and timeless design, using much more sophisticated, descriptive words. It's the same product category, clothes, but it's a completely different conversation. Why? Because the audience changed. Okay, we've got our compass. Now let's get our toolkit ready. This section is all about the practical, on-the-ground strategies you can use to just start writing, and maybe even more importantly, to keep that momentum going when you feel like you're getting stuck. Let's break down these 4 game changers. Number 1, forget the pressure to start at the beginning. Just jump into whatever paragraph you're most excited about or know the most about. It's a great way to build momentum. 2, think small. Your goal isn't the entire paper. It's just the next paragraph. That feels way less scary, right? 3, breaks are your best friend. A 5-minute walk can do wonders, but set a timer. We all know how a short break can get away from us. And finally, number 4, be realistic. It is so much better to set a goal of writing 1 great paragraph and actually do it than to aim for 10 and write nothing at all. You know, speaking of paragraphs, here's a fantastic rule of thumb from our source material. If you're wondering, how long should this be? This is your sweet spot. A single sentence can feel a little abrupt, but a whole page-long paragraph, you might lose your reader. Aim for something right there in the middle, and you'll be in great shape. All right, we've talked about the mindset. We've got our process down. Now, let's talk about architecture. The essential building blocks that are going to hold your whole draft together and give it that clear, logical structure. But before we look at that blueprint, I just want to repeat this one core idea one more time. A first draft is a working version. Think of yourself as an architect at a construction site. This version is meant to have flaws. It's supposed to be a little messy. Your only job right now is to get the structure up. The decorations, the fancy paint job, all that comes later when you revise.
So what is this structure? Well, it's these 5 core elements. You need an introduction to hook your reader, a thesis statement that clearly states your main point, topic sentences to act as mini guides for each paragraph, supporting sentences to give the proof, and of course, a conclusion to wrap it all up nicely. This is your blueprint for pretty much any piece of writing you'll ever do.
Okay, let's zoom in on one of the most powerful and maybe most misunderstood parts of that blueprint, the topic sentence. Its job is actually super simple, but it is so critical. It just tells the reader, hey, this is exactly what this next paragraph is going to be about. It's like a signpost for every section of your argument. Now, this next part might just blow your mind because it busts a myth a lot of us were taught in school. We were told the topic sentence has to be the first sentence, but that's not a rule, it's just a guideline. Where you place it can actually change the entire effect of the paragraph. A really powerful way to use this is to put the topic sentence at the end. Check out this example. The writer gives us all these details first: the sticky floors, the wobbly tables, the deafening noise. They're building a case. And then, bam, that final sentence delivers the main point, and it hits so much harder because you've already experienced all the evidence. Pretty cool, right? So, you did it. You wrestled with the ideas, you followed your map, and now you have a complete, honest-to-goodness first draft. The blank page is officially conquered. So what now? Let's talk about the mindset you need to carry forward. Let's just lock in these key ideas. 1. A draft is just a starting point. It's supposed to be improved. 2. Your purpose and your audience are your everything. They guide all your decisions. 3. Trust your outline. You worked hard on it for a reason. And 4, and this is the big one, the goal is completion, not perfection. Say it with me. Completion, not perfection. Think of it this way. Finishing your first draft isn't crossing the finish line. Nope. It's getting your car built and rolling it up to the starting line. You've successfully built the engine and the frame. The next stages, revising and editing, that's where you add the shiny paint job, tune the engine, and polish that car into something that's really going to turn heads. And that brings us to the end. You now have the mindset, you've got the tools, and you have the blueprint to face that blinking cursor with absolutely no fear. So I'll just leave you with this one final question. Now that you know you can do it, what story, what argument, what amazing idea are you gonna bring to life?